Yo, what's up, guys? It's Benny. They call it the fog of war for a reason because, well, sometimes you don't know what the truth is. It's a little foggy out there, and it's hard to really discern what's going to happen next. And this one comes as a bit of a shock to me. The National Counterterrorism Center director, he resigned yesterday. His name is Joe Kent. He's a Gold Star husband and a war veteran himself, somebody who served in 11 different deployments. He's beloved by the GWAT community and many in the populist movement. He did run for office, didn't win in a congressional race, but nonetheless worked in the Trump administration. What wasn't really high drama, as far as I could tell, until he resigned yesterday, sort of, and quite shockingly, out of the blue. Again, not going to engage in any ad hominems with Joe Kent. His service is quite honorable. Donald Trump says it's a good thing that he resigned, but he did in spectacular fashion. This letter, for instance, was seen by 95 million people, probably one of the most seen resignation letters in human history, 243,000 reposts. Anyway, the point is that, well, turns out, as we speculated a little earlier today, that there might have been a lot more going on behind the scenes. And now we know that he is under investigation for leaking classified information. All right. Let's go ahead and listen to this Fox News report. What do they know? This is a semaphore report that Joe Kent is now under FBI investigation and was under FBI investigation before he resigned from his position, quite shockingly, yesterday.
Sources are saying that Joe Kent, the former director of the United States National Counterterror Center, this is from Semaphore, he just resigned. He's now under FBI investigation for allegedly leaking classified information. And the investigation predates his departure. Congressman, your reaction to that tonight? Wow.
Well, there's a lot there, and I think that we need to let this investigation play out, but we shouldn't tolerate any leakers in the administration, particularly regarding classified national security interests and...
Okay. That's it. That's the report. Let's go ahead and look at the original reporting here. This is Shelby Talcott. She's the White House correspondent for Semaphore. Joe Kent is under FBI investigation for allegedly leaking classified information. 3 sources tell me. I'm told the investigation predates his departure. A 4th source has confirmed this to me. White House and the FBI are declining to comment. More here. FBI investigates intelligence aide who resigned over war. So, yikes, I guess. Let's read. I mean, it's really nothing else other than he's under investigation. The investigation predates Kent's departure, 4 people said. It's been months long. Trump aides and allies denounced Kent as a leaker immediately after his resignation became public. Kent wrote in his resignation letter that Iran poses no threat to America. The FBI and White House declined to comment. Okay, so a couple of takeaway thoughts on Joe Kent. And I don't know enough. He's saying that there's no threat from Iran, and that we only did this because Israel told Donald Trump to do it, and that Donald Trump is a total puppet of a foreign power. I mean, these are really broad allegations to make that don't seem to match Joe Kent's history of commentary on Iran. I mean, that's just on its face. And we've gone through his posts about Iran. He has said publicly in his own commentary that Iran is out there killing Americans, that Iran is out there engaging in terrorism against Americans. Again, he lost his wife to radical Islamic terrorism. It's horrible. Okay. I'm not sitting here to tell some man like this, a husband like this, what his feelings should be on the matter. Obviously, can you imagine something worse happening to you? But this is something that Joe Kent has said publicly, right? So he's told us his feelings on this. He said that Iran is a massive sponsor of terror, that Iran has killed Americans, that Iran tried to kill Trump. He has told Donald Trump to take out all of Iran's ballistic missiles and nuclear missile capacity. He said this many times publicly. So it does seem like a somewhat peculiar change of heart. His resignation letter, seemingly says that Iran's not a threat to us, pose no threat to our nation. I, I mean, I don't know, man. Joe Kent straight up said that it poses a threat to our nation like a bunch of times. That's his words against his words. Maybe things changed. He didn't have a national security clearance at this time. I'm not sure. So MTG, former Congresswoman MTG, is saying Trump administration is going to put Joe Kent in jail before the Epstein list. Okay. Laura Loomer is saying White House source tells me Joe Kent resigned once he got word that he was being put under investigation for leaking classified information. I've been told by a number of people that Joe Kent leaked classified information. He has a lot of friends in media. He has a lot of friends in like the podcast space. And then this was something that he did and does. I don't have I don't have firsthand knowledge of this. He didn't leak anything, obviously, to me. I don't know the guy. I think he's been on the show like before, like a long time ago, maybe a couple years ago. Certainly not in his official capacity in the Trump administration. But anyway, as I reported last year, Kent was caught leaking President Trump's private schedule and meetings to Tucker Carlson and was told by senior White House advisors if he got caught leaking again, he would be fired. It appears Joe Kent's interview with Tucker Carlson had nothing more than a premeditated performance to play the victim card and cry retaliation. Kent knew the truth about his investigation would come out. The interviews this week is a way of getting ahead of the news cycle. As I said yesterday, Kent sounds like somebody who's about to be fired or resigned. And then, Joe Kent was actually in less than 24 hours on Tucker Carlson's show. I mean, it's not a knock. It's a good guess. It's a good get, but I mean, that's really fast to book yourself on Tucker's show. Tucker doesn't film in DC. It seems like a pretty, it seems aggressive, right? People are calling this into question. You'd be amazed at how often secret and conveniently unwitnessed wishes of the deceased are expressed to reflect perfectly those tangential, ambitious characters wanted to do and say anyway. So here's what he's saying is that the last thing Charlie Kirk told him is to not let Trump go to war with Iran. I mean, Charlie Kirk didn't like the idea of forever war with Iran. And this is what he just said this is what Joe just said on Tucker Carlson. I'll play the clip in just a moment. I guess what I've regularly said about this is that it just does seem to be, people do this quite a bit, where if they know there's a bad news cycle, if they, like, say they leaked and were caught, and they know that there's going to be a bad news cycle, well, do your best to balkanize your position to get ahead of it. Is that what's going on right now? The other thing about people who leak classified information or, leak to the press is, and I don't understand why they do it, but I've known these people. They were all over the first Trump administration. They're constantly leaking. They're constantly telling all their secrets to journalists. Constantly. I mean, look, just talk to anybody who worked in that administration and they'll tell you exactly who all the leakers were. I don't understand. It's like a pathology. I don't get why you would do it. It really does help out the enemy. I don't understand why you do it. There are people who do that. I don't know if Joe Kent's one of those people because I don't know Joe Kent. But anyway, Trump counterterrorism chief breaks silence, shock resignation, reveals President Trump should have done instead. He says you should have taken instead of going in as hard as President Trump did with Iran, you should have taken a more tactical stance effectively is what he said, what he's saying, instead of doing like the massive bombing raids and so on. But anyway, Joe Kent, ladies and gentlemen, on the Tucker Carlson show right here, talking about the last thing that Charlie Kirk told him. Again, people are calling this into question, but it is going viral right now. This has been seen by 1 million people. Joe Kent on Tucker Carlson right here. What do you think in the comments? It's a very interesting development here, although I guess not surprising. I always assumed there was something else going on here. Here we go. Here's Joe Kent. Just was on Tucker Carlson's show. Here's what he said.
Was Iran on the verge of getting a nuclear weapon?
No, they weren't, 3 weeks ago when this started, and they weren't in June either. I mean, the Iranians have had a religious ruling, a fatwa, against actually developing a nuclear weapon since 2004. That's been in place since 2004. That's available in the public sphere. But then also we had no intelligence to indicate that that fatwa was being disobeyed or it was on the cusp of being lifted. The Iranian strategy, it's actually pretty pragmatic. The Iranians are obviously aware of what's taking place in their region, and their strategy was to not completely abandon their nuclear program because they saw what happened to Muammar Gaddafi in Libya when he said, hey, I've got no more nukes. I'll do what you say. I'll give up my nukes.
And we gave him the Nobel Peace Prize?
Yeah, we regime changed him, and he was executed by his own people in the most horrific way.
Oh, sodomized by a bayonet. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's that's the lesson I think that the entire region took from that when Hillary Clinton.
Unfortunately, that is what the neocon, neoliberal warmongers. That's the lesson that they showed everyone in the region. And then conversely, the Iranians also knew that if they came out and said, "Okay, we've got a nuke," whether they were bluffing or not, Saddam Hussein, Iraq right next door. So they kind of had
he hung. I think
he was hung by his own people. After a bloody war that's still essentially going on inside of Iraq. So the Iranians' position, when viewed from the lens of the region, was actually fairly pragmatic. They were preventing, themselves from developing a bomb, but they still wanted the ability. They wanted the ability to enrich. They wanted the ability to have some components so that they weren't completely stripped of it. And when we always assessed that they were either several months or a year, 2 years away from actually being able to develop a nuclear weapon. And that's not because the Iranians are stupid people. I think we can tell right now that the Iranians are anything but stupid. They had the ability, I think, that the brain power to actually develop one, or they could have simply traded a ton of oil with Pakistan or with someone else to actually get a nuclear weapon. They were not doing that. We had no intelligence to indicate that they were.